It was the year that Reagan launched his Star Wars play. Pine Tar sparked a diamond fray, and Dirty Harry made our day. Here are the 10 most magical, rage-inducing, tragic, invasive, impactful, tasty, badass, space-age, happy little stories of the year. Who can forget 1983?
Fools, prepare to be pitied.
If the 80s was Mr. T's decade, then 1983 was the year he reached critical mass.
Mr. T was one of those guys who was just unabashedly masculine.
It's the mohawk, it's the muscles, it's the jewelry.
Once you have a brand like that, you don't leave it. You think Taylor Swift is going to start wearing nude lipstick? No.
1982, he was in Rocky III.
But in 1983 is really when his star hit its highest, when the A-Team first aired. Mr. T plays the gruff B.A. Baracus, one of a group of 4 Vietnam commandos turned mercenaries.
Driving around in the coolest van anyone has ever seen. Oh, come on. That with the stripe?
Facing danger.
I'm shaking all over.
George Peppard and Mr. T want you to watch the A-Team Tuesday night, February 8th. And don't forget to duck.
He was terrifying. And then you see him on the A-Team and you're like, what a sweet guy.
His reputation was softened when he came on the A-Team because people liked him.
Mr. T was everywhere. He was on T-shirts. He was on Different Strokes. He had his own Saturday morning cartoon.
He even got his own cereal.
Teaming up with Mr. T, golden sweet crispy teas.
I had this very same action figure.
He didn't need this gun. He was Mr. T. He could beat up anybody, this guy.
I mean, it was like the whole world were fools, and he pitied all of us.
Probably the most famous appearance Mr. T made in '83 was when he visited the White House at the end of the year.
The media is given a tour of her Christmas decoration throughout the White House and then is led into a room where they see Nancy's guest of honor.
All right. Who been good and who been bad?
Mr. T is dressed in a Santa outfit, cut off sleeves, sitting in a chair.
He tried to get some of the press corps to sit on his lap and tell Santa what they wanted for Christmas, and nobody would go for it.
Nancy Reagan came in and sat on Mr. T's lap. No one else would do it. Nancy Reagan, the First Lady.
But she goes one step further. She gives Mr. T a kiss on the head.
It is arguably the most famous First Lady photo op of all time.
Wow. She didn't say no to him.
Let's face it, Grenada doesn't exactly have the best name recognition.
It's in the same neighborhood as Aruba, but the Beach Boys don't bring it up in Kokomo?
If you want to get famous, you get invaded by the United States.
U.S. officials had a close eye on Grenada since about 1979, when a Marxist coup left communist Maurice Bishop in power.
Maurice Bishop, by the way, doesn't sound like somebody running Grenada. Sounds like somebody that did my taxes at like an H&R Block.
What really got the U.S.'s attention was when Grenada started building an airstrip on the north part of the island.
They said it was for tourism, but it seemed like the only tourists that were flying there were wearing khakis and holding machine guns.
As if the U.S. needed another excuse to intervene, they got it in 1983.
Maurice Bishop was assassinated, and a more hardline communist took over.
Any type of protests are met with violence, and people were shot on sight for breaking curfew.
Meanwhile, we still had 600 U.S. medical students there in the middle of all this craziness.
They couldn't get into Columbia or Johns Hopkins.
Isn't it like the Harvard of South America?
It had only been a couple of years since the Iranian hostage situation, and that cost Jimmy Carter the presidency. Reagan knew that more than anybody.
Just 2 days before the Grenada operation, we lost over 200 American Marines in the barracks bombing in Beirut, Lebanon.
April 18th, a suicide mission killed 63 at the U.S. Embassy in Beirut. Last Sunday, another truck loaded with explosives hits a building filled with Marines.
The truck smashed through the doors of the headquarters building in which our Marines were sleeping and instantly exploded.
President Reagan described that as one of the worst days of his presidency.
There was a feeling by the American public that America had lost its ability after Vietnam and after the Iranian crisis to stand up for what it believed in. And Ronald Reagan wasn't going to let that happen on his watch.
You say Grenada, I say Grenada, I say here comes Reagan and the boys.
The military action was by the book and controlled by the Americans.
In the early morning hours of October 25th, Operation Urgent Fury was launched.
A brutal group of leftist thugs violently seized power.
And it was huge, and it was in every headline. It's all you heard about on the nightly news.
And pockets of resistance are said to still exist on the tiny island. Military reports say it may take some time to contain them.
The fighting was fierce.
We had some pretty shoddy intelligence. I mean, U.S. forces were actually using tourist maps to launch attacks.
The upside, of course, was that they could easily find the Michelin 5-star restaurants.
Where it says photo op, we're supposed to go 6 clicks there. You know, we really should grab, because I hear those churros are delightful.
It's weird to flex on a little country like Grenada, but boy, we flexed on them.
So our invasion of Grenada wasn't looked upon favorably by the rest of the world. I mean, the UN condemned us. Shocker.
In America, though, the invasion was popular because it was brief and we were victorious.
American patriotism was becoming in vogue again, something that you didn't have to be ashamed of, but that you could put on your lapel.
Watch your back, Panama.
And now, it's time for a Who Can Forget pop quiz. Which popular doll line, released in 1983, had the name of its creator printed on every doll's butt?
On its butt?
Is it A, Rainbow Bright, B, Cabbage Patch Kids, or C, American Girl?
I'm going to go with C, American Girl.
Oh! We're off to a horrible start.
I don't know, Rainbow Bright.
I'm going with Cabbage Patch.
Oh, I got it.
Over 30 million dolls were sold during the Cabbage Patch craze of 1983. Each had the name Xavier Roberts scrawled on its rear.
So now we know why the Gen Xers all got tramp stamps. It's all clear now.
July 24th, Kansas City Royals against the New York Yankees.
It's the top of the ninth. Yanks up 4-3. 2 outs. UL Washington on first.
The great George Brett steps up to the plate, nails a beautiful home run.
It's now 5-4 Royals.
Out comes Billy Martin, the Yankees manager.
One of the toughest street rats that New York has ever produced.
Billy Martin of the New York Yankees was always coming out of the dugout. He was getting in the face of the umpires. He was always kicking dirt on their shoes. I never understood that when he's kicking dirt on their shoes.
Everybody knew that George Brett used a lot of pine tar, and nobody knew that better than Billy Martin, the manager of the New York Yankees.
So pine tar is a sticky substance that a lot of ball players back in the day used to put on their bats.
If this was smell-o-vision, you could smell this dramatically.
Oh my God, that's awful.
I've cleaned diapers that are more attractive than this.
Batters would use this to wrap around the grip.
So there's not really any rule in Major League Baseball against the use of pine tar. Pine tar is just a sticky substance that helps a batter get a better grip on the handle.
But there is a rule about how much you can coat the bat with something that helps your grip. And it's about 18 inches.
George Brett's bat had it all over the place.
So you're watching this on TV at home, and the umpires and Martin and the Yankees are all talking for minutes upon minutes. You're saying, what is going on?
The umpire points the bat at Brett, and he announces that he had hit an illegally batted ball.
They called him out, and they disallowed the home run.
The Royals dugout erupts. Brett comes firing out like a bat out of hell.
He looked like he wanted to kill the umpire's family.
How do you win a game that you've apparently lost? Billy Martin will explain how the Yankees did it.
If he'd got a single, I'd have complained also, and the same thing would have happened.
So the Royals lose the game 4-3.
The Royals cry foul. They complain. They want this thing reversed. And the president of the American League agrees with them.
Pine tar does not make a ball go any further if you bat it.
If you put pine tar all over the bat, it makes the ball dirty. You got to get a new ball. And I guess, I thought balls were a dime a dozen, but apparently they cost money.
So the league restores Brett's home run, and the league orders that the game be finished a couple of weeks later.
I was very happy to see Lee McPhail come out and say, I am not a cheater.
On August 18th, the game is resumed. And the Yankees are still pretty miffed that they got overruled on this one, but they're not without their bag of tricks.
First thing they do is throw the ball to first base, saying that Brett did not touch the bases when he ran around for the home run.
They threw another pitch to second base because apparently they said he hadn't touched second base either.
The umpires come out with a notarized note from the other umpires who had worked the game at the time that declared that Brett had touched first, second, third, and home. Therefore, the home run was legal.
The game continues under protest by the New York Yankees, but ends up ending uneventfully with the Bombers losing 5-4 to the Kansas City Royals.
And everyone remembers the pine tar bat, and my hands still smell.
Seriously, do you have anything I can get this off with? In 1983, in a lonely studio in Muncie, Indiana, a white guy with an afro began to mesmerize America.
But it's like driving the car. At first, it's a little difficult. You have to learn how to make your hands and your foot work together.
You would start with a blank canvas, and by the end of the program, it would be like, wow, I would hang that over my couch.
But the real draw wasn't the art, it was the man, Bob Ross.
He looked like some sort of free lover from like the 70s.
I sort of love him.
He had this really wonderful, calming voice.
Anything that you're willing to practice, you can do.
Dude's voice was better than a morphine drip.
Let's get some cerulean blue, shall we? Have you ever been to Cerulean? I haven't. It seems like a nice place.
It was kind of like a tranquilizer.
I don't know if it's a compliment to be like, your voice makes me really want to go to bed, but that is the fact with Bob Ross.
People continually say, I can't draw a straight line. I don't have the talent, Bob, to do what you're doing. That's baloney.
It was about painting, but it was really about life.
Bob Ross was like a little guru. He would say things like, don't be afraid to go out on the limb, because that's where the fruit is.
We don't make mistakes, we just have happy little accidents.
Each painting always kind of followed the same theme, happy clouds and happy trees.
It's not a happy tree because it needs a friend. So let's make a nice friend to this happy tree. Right there, like a little one.
I could use a friend, Bob. I hope this show goes on all day. From 1983 to 1994, Bob Ross produces 403 episodes of The Joy of Painting, building himself into a merchandising empire of $15 million.
Which, when you think about PBS, that is a lot of tote bags.
Bob Ross was a vertically integrated brand long before Kim Kardashian or J-Lo. None of them have a chia head, do they?
Bob Ross.
Is that edible?
But it turns out that beautiful coif of his may not have been all it was cracked up to be.
People close to him said he got his hair permed. But that was big back then. You know, Mr. Brady did it.
Van Gogh cut off an ear. Bob Ross had a perm. I heard Michelangelo had a stutter. Sure, I'm making that up.
Bobby, they're here.
They're here?
Yeah.
So strange to think that there was a time in America where Chicken McNuggets did not exist.
In 1979, McDonald's executive chef Rene Haren perfected the recipe for the Chicken McNugget.
Leave it to a French guy to put chicken in a blender.
But McDonald's had a problem.
At that time, there actually wasn't enough processed chicken to go around.
So they went to Tyson Chicken and they demanded more chickens. They also wanted them to breed chickens with larger breasts,
which in turn made the roosters happy.
In 1983, Chicken McNuggets are finally introduced to the public, and they are a smash hit. People can't get enough of these things.
Just how I remember it.
The nug came in 4 shapes: the boot, the bow tie, the ball, and the bell.
But anybody who's ever eaten a Chicken McNugget knows them to be one shape, that crispy blob.
Parents soon figured out kids love chicken nuggets.
Kids won't eat anything, but you put McNuggets in front of them? They house those sons of guns.
It's so easy. And you're in the car, and you're at McDonald's. How many you want? I want the 12-pack, Daddy.
To this day, you were to go down to the White House and do a blood test of the tall blonde boy who used to live at my house, he would test 100% positive for the Chicken McNugget variant. The McNugget became just basically the chicken nugget in a generic form that was copied time and again by restaurants, in your grocery store.
And once they figured out how to make these things dinosaur-shaped, game over.
Today, Americans eat 2.3 billion chicken nuggets per year, half of which come from the Pyro household.
On the morning of February 4th, 1983, Karen Carpenter collapsed in a closet and passed away.
Her death really, really shocked Americans.
The Carpenters started in the 60s. They were a brother-sister duo.
Karen Carpenter was a badass drummer. You know, it's like there aren't enough female drummers.
The eventual success of the Carpenters came from when they took Karen out from behind the drum kit and they put her out front.
She had this unbelievable voice, and anyone who heard it knew right away.
And it was that voice that rocketed songs like Close to You and We've Only Just Begun up the charts.
The Carpenters were, like their song says, you know, on top of the world. But behind the scenes, things were not so good.
Karen had been battling body dysmorphia most of her life, but by the 70s, she had a full-blown case of anorexia nervosa.
She was very, very thin, but wanted to be thinner.
Karen was taking thyroid medication to speed up her metabolism while at the same time downing laxatives to have the food move through her system faster.
Her weight dropped from 120 to 110 to 90 at the lowest.
September of 1982, she checks herself into Lenox Hill Hospital in New York for help.
She managed to put on some weight, but it also put more pressure on her heart, which she had damaged after many years of her sickness.
Karen Carpenter was the queen of soft rock. Today she died of a heart attack. She was only 32 years old.
At 32 years old. 32 years old.
So many people heard about anorexia for this first time, and a lot of them are like, you know what, that sounds like somebody I know. I know that person.
It was sounding the alarms at how body image had become such a problem for young women.
It finally got people talking about it for the first time because we had always assumed if you were skinny, you were healthy.
You have best-selling albums, the most beautiful songs imagined, and you could still be dying on the inside and thinking there's something wrong with you.
I don't know what happened in the 80s, where all of a sudden magicians were everywhere.
It was the heyday of the magician, that's for sure.
You had these kind of superstar celebrity magicians like the hippie suspender-wearing Doug Henning.
We live in a world of illusion.
The early 80s had a lot of TV events, and the master of all of them, for my money, was David Copperfield.
The magician who didn't blink.
I remember when he made a Learjet just disappear.
But it was April 8th, 1983, when David Copperfield amazed the world by making the Statue of Liberty disappear.
This stunt was performed live, okay, in front of live cameras, a live audience, so there was no like camera trickery.
There were helicopters, there were searchlights, there was even a radar to show the location of Lady Liberty.
Seemed pretty legit. I was still very skeptical. I was like, no, I don't trust his gypsy magic.
After some suspenseful buildup, a curtain is lifted between the two towers in front of the Statue of Liberty.
The curtain drops, and there's nothing there.
You could hear an audible gasp from the crowd. So we weren't just amazed at home, the people who were right there were also amazed. So this seemed like it was a pretty cool trick.
And so he raised the curtain again.
How long can we stay free? For just as long as we keep thinking and speaking and acting as free human beings.
With a wave of his hand, the curtain drops and Lady Liberty is back.
Only a guy from Jersey could make Lady Liberty disappear. He knew a guy.
I stood in the newsroom with a bunch of the other guys and it's like, how did he do that?
Everyone went into work the next day, and there was always that guy who had the theory. He could explain how it was done.
No. It was a mirror on the Empire State, and
It wasn't until many years later that Copperfield finally revealed how it was done.
Spoiler alert!
The entire set with the two towers, the audience himself, was actually on a rotating stage.
They and the camera and everything else is moving.
so they slowly turned it just enough so one of the towers was blocking the Statue of Liberty, and that's how we pulled it off.
Kind of kills it for you, right?
It was all phony. She's still there, you guys. You can go visit her.
There she is. Feeling okay?
And now it's time for another Who Can Forget pop quiz. The Swatch arrived in stores in 1983 and quickly became a must-have fashion accessory. The word swatch is a combination of what two words?
Whoa.
Is it A, second watch, B, Swiss watch, or C, sweet watch?
I'm going to go with C, sweet watch. I'm not doing really well today, am I?
Swiss watch. No.
So I'm going to go A, second watch.
The answer is A, second watch. With a retail price of around $40, swatches were marketed as an extra timepiece for more casual times.
In my school, the girls would collect the watches. They get their second watch, their third watch, their fourth watch, their fifth watch, all on the same arm. How many time zones do you need?
One thing we did not lack in the 80s was amazing catchphrases.
But I would say one of the biggest came from the movie Sudden Impact.
This was the fourth in the line of Dirty Harry movies, starring Clint Eastwood as Dirty Harry Callahan.
He was maybe one of the most badass characters in cinematic history.
Nobody could say something with a kind of a sneer to a bad guy better than Clint Eastwood.
So, in the famous scene, Harry Callahan kind of stumbles upon an armed robbery.
There's a big shootout that ensues, and Dirty Harry kills every single one of them but one.
The robber points a gun to the waitress's head and obviously expects Dirty Harry to back off, right?
And Dirty Harry's like, don't do it, I'll give you $100. And then they focus group that, and they're like, the line's not playing, Clint. I'm sorry.
Harry Callahan raises his .44 Magnum and utters one of the most iconic movie quotes of all time.
Go ahead. Make my day.
I love it.
Is that Dirty Harry or is it Joe Biden? I can't tell.
The movie did okay, but it was nothing like the impression made by that one simple line.
I mean, the line was repeated by your family, your friends, your coworkers.
And over the next couple years, it was parodied on almost every single sitcom you could think of.
Elf, Night Court, The Golden Girls, Mr. Belvedere.
And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
Tax increasers?
A little softer than Clint Eastwood, but it worked. You got the message.
In 1983, America said goodbye to one of its most beloved shows ever, MASH.
Low helicopter walk.
Oh my God, it was huge. Everything stopped when that show came on.
I remember watching MASH a lot as a kid, which now, looking back, seems weird.
The challenge of creating comedy out of drama and doing it respectfully, that's what MASH really did.
You'd just driven your Jeep through the wall of the Officers Club and ordered a double bourbon.
That was strange. I drink martinis.
The characters were so rich and so likable, you felt like you knew every single person.
They had this ensemble cast. You had Alan Alda as Hawkeye, Loretta Swit as Hot Lips.
Trapper John was actually played in the TV series by Wayne Rogers, who actually became a part of the Fox family.
When you read the comments, it's funny. It looked like a compendium of aphorisms.
Wow.
I liked Klinger. He was funny, dressing like a lady. That was always fun, until Dylan Mulvaney did it. And then it just seemed weird.
I mean, it's on every greatest TV show of all time list.
I'd like to go home right now and watch a hilarious episode of MASH, where the Korean War still hilariously is being fought.
Korean War only lasted 3 years. The series went on for 11 seasons.
And then 11-year war. Can you imagine? That would never happen with the United States.
On February 28th, 1983, the show gives its final farewell.
You had to be there for that. There was no, calling in.
It was all anybody talked about. I mean, forget about Seinfeld.
People were so jacked up for this final episode, there were actually MASH parties.
As a kid, I remember this was event television in a way I hadn't really experienced it before.
They actually charged more money for advertising in a commercial spot for that finale than the Super Bowl.
The final episode takes place in the final days of the Korean War, and the camp is starting to break down.
I remember watching as a kid, and I remember being very moved by Alan Alda's character, who was dealing with PTSD.
Father Mulcahy losing his hearing and trying not to burden anybody with it.
Of course, there was the famous kiss with Hawkeye and Hot Lips Houlihan.
The finale kind of brought it all together. Like, all those years of laughing was just kind of masking the fact that they were in the worst hell on earth.
121.6 million people watched the finale.
Back then, there were like 250 million Americans, okay? About half of every human being in the United States was watching MASH at that moment.
It seems that while half the country was tuned in to that episode on the night of February 28th, the last MASH broadcast, much of Pacifica was blacked out.
There were large parts of California that actually lost power, so they weren't able to watch this. So I guess the numbers could have been much, much higher.
At 11:03 p.m. that night, New York City noted the highest water usage in history. They held it to the end of the show.
They have a phrase for that called flush time.
The finale remained the most watched television broadcast in American history until the Super Bowl in 2010.
Kind of helps your cause when The Who was the halftime show, right? I mean, it wasn't just the football guys.
In 1983, the Cold War was in full swing.
President Reagan's view on communism was never misunderstood. He was very frank about the way he felt about the Soviets.
It was in 1983 that Reagan spoke in front of the National Association of Evangelicals. And it was there that he coined the phrase, the evil empire.
To ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire, to simply call the arms race a giant misunderstanding.
He was viewed as a cowboy who would start World War III, he was going to get us in trouble. That's what his opponents said.
The United States had 24,000 nuclear-tipped missiles aimed at Russia. They had 36,000 aimed at us.
Either we fired first and they're going to try to hit what's left. But they fired first and we just got our missiles out of the ground in time.
The fear of nuclear war kind of comes to a head with the 1983 television movie, The Day After.
This ABC TV movie brought to light the horrors and real-world impacts of what would happen if a nuclear attack hit the heartland.
Nothing like this had ever been done on network TV, and it caused a huge stir.
The media requested private screenings. The House of Commons asked for a copy. Even the Pope wanted to take a look.
28.5 million households watched The Day After. It was like 100 million people.
Ronald Reagan himself actually saw The Day After and was shaken by it.
Even though Reagan is viewed as this pro-war president, it turns out he was really anti-nuke.
Ironically, in some ways, he was one of the best friends that the anti-nuke movement had.
Because he understood what it meant.
My fellow Americans, thank you for sharing your time with me tonight.
One of the things you remember about the 1980s was Ronald Reagan in the Oval Office breaking into primetime television.
He was one of the best communicators when it came to the Oval Office and the presidency.
Everybody misses the tone of Ronald Reagan.
And to you, my fellow citizens, let us join in a new determination to rebuild the foundation of our society.
It always seemed like he was talking right to you. It was very sort of intimate.
Everything was going to be okay. And if it wasn't okay now, oh, it'll be okay by the time you wake up.
On March 23rd, President Reagan preempted TV programming to give a speech about the Soviet Union.
I call upon the scientific community in our country, those who gave us nuclear weapons, to turn their great talents now to the cause of mankind and world peace, to give us the means of rendering these nuclear weapons impotent and obsolete.
This speech goes on to be known as the Star Wars speech because it ignites the Strategic Defense Initiative.
We are going to have these satellites with lasers so that as soon as the Soviet Union sends a missile our way, one of the satellites with the laser zaps it.
At the time, we were impressed by the computer imagery that Reagan was showing us. You know, we were kids who played asteroids.
Star Wars was a nickname. It was a sarcastic nickname to make fun of it.
He knew the Soviet Union, the economic system was bankrupt, and that they could not keep up with our defense systems that we were building.
the Star Wars program would in fact end up bringing the Soviet Union to the table for de-escalation because they realized they could not compete with us from a financial perspective or from a technology perspective.
The man had vision. Say it with me, journalists. You were wrong.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. And there's a happy little lake. Oh, there's a happy little lake, and I can float away. I could float away on my happy boat, right? Do you ever want to do that, right? Even if you don't have a boat, you know, you could steal it from someone. You know, you could climb aboard aboard the boat, and you could assassinate the boat owner, and you could drive off on your own. Did you ever think about that? I wouldn't recommend it. But here we go.
I pity the fool